Hey everyone, how are you? Hope you're doing well. We are here with Mike. He is a founder of PT Hybrid Practice, and he has his own practice, and he lives in Colorado. We'll be interviewing him as a part of the YouTube series called the Curious Entrepreneur episode. So, welcome, Mike, and let's start with your introduction.
Thanks, VJ. I have a long and winding road to physical therapy. I was volunteering at the Breckenridge Outdoor Education Center, and there were four other volunteers or outdoor instructors, and we were working with people who had disabilities. So teaching folks how to sit ski um, and or monoski. And out of the five of us, four of us went to PT school and one went to OT school. So I was very fortunate. I fell in with a very good group of like-minded people. Um, I also have to give a shout out. A very long time ago, I did Outward Bound. Somebody was gracious enough to provide me a scholarship. And at the end of the Outward Bound course, it was a 23-day outdoor course. My instructor, who also is ironically a physician assistant here in Boulder, um, asked me, "What are you going to do?" Because at the time I wasn't in college. Um, and I explained to her I was thinking of becoming a high school physical education teacher as well as a history teacher. I had a teacher in my high school who had dual certifications. And she asked me why, and kind of a conversation ensued. And she said, "Did you ever consider physical therapy?" And I was like, "I don't know anything about it." And she said, "You should maybe start volunteering." So I did that in Boulder. And then I fell in with the BOEC people, the Breckenridge Outdoor Education people. And that put me on the path to getting into school. And I went to school at the University of Montana in Missoula. Um, there were only 20 of us in our class. And so we had direct one-on-one time with our professors. And for me, it was hard. It was hard in the beginning. But once I found my feet, I did okay. And through a series of events, we actually had to do a full-blown research project. And through a series of events, I ended up doing my research project directly one-on-one with my professor, Elizabeth Akita. She subsequently was retired, but she was a huge influence on my life. She's just such a wonderful person and had so much integrity. So by virtue of being able to spend a lot of time with her and being around somebody who had a lot of integrity, that really rubbed off on me. And I tried to bring that into my physical therapy practice. And so, like a lot of people, I started as an employee. Um, I was working at a place where um, it looked like they weren't doing very well financially. So I started to put out feelers to find a new job, and I ended up landing a job as a medical director in a couple of towns away from where I am now. And I did that for 8 years. So I was the medical director of a clinic that initially we specialized in workers' compensation and motor vehicle accidents. So that was our niche, and then we branched out from there. Um, that was a pretty stressful job. 50 plus hours a week. I was the manager of one clinic, but I also helped influence four of our other clinics. I was kind of the go-to guy. So I wore a lot of hats. There were a lot of fires to put out in that job. And also, so that's what led to some of the stress. So I decided to go back to just being, an in the room PT. I didn't want to be a boss anymore. I didn't want to own a practice. I just wanted to be an employee. So I did that for a few years. And then unfortunately, the dot-com bust hit. And the clinic I worked for, long story short, went out of business due to, they went bankrupt. Walked across the street, got a job. It wasn't the best fit for either of us. I have to say that clinic has a ton of integrity. I learned a lot. But at one point, it was time for me to go out on my own. So then, about 6 years ago, I opened my own practice, and I started very conservatively. So I took, this is where the hybrid practice evolved out of. I took very few insurances. I did a lot of insurances out of network, and I did a cash-based, I had a cash-based clientele. And that has evolved into a full-time job. And I realized that a hybrid practice, what I want to share with people about that is if you're starting out or you're thinking of starting your own practice, it's not a bad way to start because you don't have to take the lesser reimbursing insurance contracts. You can take those out of network. You can figure out what your bottom line cash rate is and then take insurances that come close to that or match that. And that's what I've done. And that afforded me some financial security. So now I'm full-time. I'm looking to hire some employees. And then, so that's the short of my story. And I went to Greg Todd's SSPT 2 years ago. I met Will Boyd and Alex Engar and Jerry Durham and some other folks at the conference. And I started taking Will and Alex's courses. And so I took Impact Academy, and I already had the hybrid PT group but Impact Academy really helped me grow it. So it's really taken off since I did Will and Alex's course. And right now I'm offering free consults to people, and we just get on the phone and talk. And I'm a big believer in being your own boss. I really think one of the things that physical therapy has not afforded people coming out of school is the business side of running a practice. And that's where, in this day and age, there's so many resources, there's so many people who are willing to help you out and to launch that. And I really think that's the way physical therapy can recapture our profession, is that people become their own entrepreneurs. And you don't even maybe have to be somebody who is treating patients. You could be like Will Boyd or Alex Engar or Jerry Durham used to own a clinic, and now he's a consultant. So there's a lot of opportunity for physical therapists to move forward in this current market.
Yeah. No, I think since last 2 years, our industry, especially the therapy world, has evolved a lot. Right now, I would say like, treating patient or, doing like patient care is, I would say, 50% of the business. There's 50% of the business that is more on the fitness and wellness side that is still untouched of, and there's still, territory to be explored by new grad or, fresh people who are looking for, some side income or side business and some stuff. I've been talking to a lot of people who are moving maybe all cash-based practice or, doing some, I'm not sure if you know Brian Bernard. So he's in Florida. He only treats people with golfer and runner. So that's his niche, right? And he's doing complete cash base for 2-3 years, and he's making the same money what he's supposed to make as an employee, like 80, close to 80, 90 grand cash. And plus you have flexibility. You are owner of your own, the leverage that you have, and people knows you, not, knows the business, and then they know you as an employee. So employees can be replaced, but not the business owner. So that has changed, I would say, a lot in last recent years. Plus the technology that we have now has a lot of role to play. I still remember like 10 years ago, I used to write 300 to 400 pages in notes for home care every week, and my bottom of the little finger used to get sore every weekend just by writing the 400 pages. And 80% of the information that I'm writing is the same exact thing, like patient information, name, date of birth, address, because we don't do magic, right? So every, like, one visit to a second visit, there's a minor change, like there's a 5-degree or 10-degree range of motion improvement, or the standing balance improve from fair to fair plus. There's not going to be like from poor to good or somebody started running, right? So the note's going to be almost pretty much the same. So 80% of the information, I was literally grinding through the system when initially like 2 years, if I see myself, I had my part of struggle. But I can definitely see, thankful about the technology that has helped, like, the pre-population of information or, even billing side of it. So it has, take a lot of stress out of owning any businesses right now compared to, back in those days when even you bill a paper, like, and you have to maintain the records, all the paperwork for 5, 7 years. And then you have 2 rooms file just filled out with all the notes, right? And then you
Sure.
have to maintain yourself and other stuff. So, okay, uh, I want to talk about more hybrid practice. So let's dive into a little bit more detail about a hybrid practice. How's your experience? How do you market yourself, and what is your experience in general?
That's a great question. So my experience is that specific to Colorado, we have quite a bit of the insurers have gone to a capitation, so a fee for service. So whether you treat somebody for 2 CPT units or 4 CP units, in other words, 25 minutes or 60 minutes, you're going to get paid the same. So that occurred about 10 or 12 years ago, and United Healthcare was the first one to do it, and then Blue Cross Blue Shield followed suit, and then everybody pretty much jumped in line. So even though you might be receiving, let's say, $80+ for a visit, a client might have a copay for $40. So then you're billing for $44, but whether you're billing it or your billing company is billing it, they're capturing $84.
Mm-hmm.
So what that led to was clinics, when that occurred, only 3% of clinics in Colorado refuted the new contract. So in order to make the same revenue, they had to get more people through the door. So that, in my opinion, dropped the quality of physical therapy because now you're going quantity over quality.
Yeah.
But that created an opportunity for cash-based PTs and or doing out-of-network payments. So I see people for an hour. I just straight up tell people you get what you pay for. Most of the time, clients don't even understand their own insurance, and
Yeah.
I'm talking about very intelligent people.
Yeah.
They don't understand how deductibles work. They don't understand how they think
Co-insurance,
that
co-pays. Yeah.
all that. They think that because they have insurance, it's just going to pay for physical therapy. So
Yeah.
I have an eligibility software that I can go into and I can show them their in and out network benefits. And every year deductibles are going up. So a typical example is somebody has a $2,000 to $3,000 in-network deductible, and that's usually doubled for not a network deductible. There
Mm-hmm.
are some big insurers where the in and out of network deductible is matched. So that's to my advantage. So I show somebody the eligibility sheet and say to them, you're paying for physical therapy out of pocket up to $3,000. Now, if you think it's going to be the type of year where you're going to hit your deductible, then that's a different conversation. The majority of the people who call me are not going to hit, short of having to get a surgery, they're not going to hit a $3,000 or $4,000 deductible.
Mm-hmm.
So that lends to the conversation of, well, if you want somebody to treat you for an hour, one-on-one, then I'm your guy. And I do get, so that's led to a very good conversion rate with respect to cash and out-of-network benefits. I do take a smattering of in-network insurers, but my bottom line is they have to come close to my cash rate. So that's the kind of the short of it. That's the backbone of how I run a hybrid practice.
Yeah.
Like
If you don't mind, can you share like as an average number what individuals should be looking for in terms of per visit pay? Like just an average number, like is it 100, 120?
Oh, okay, sure. So for an evaluation, 150 for 60 minutes. Um, that's relative to Colorado because, so for example, Wyoming, with at least when I was back in someone else's clinic, Wyoming was paying $130 for the same visit, same CPT codes they were paying in Colorado for 84. So it's also relevant to where you live.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't want somebody watching this and thinking it's really relevant to where I practice. So it may be relevant. The numbers may be different where you practice. They may be higher, they may be lower.
Yeah,
Um,
of,
so I would say for an evaluation, $150, and for 4 CPT codes between $110 and $120. That would be the minimum I would accept.
got it.
Um, so if you're in a more affluent demographic, then a hybrid practice might not be for you. If you're just starting out, a hybrid practice might be a good way to go to start um, getting people through the door. And then as you get more popular, you start eliminating more and more of the insurance contracts and segue over to a cash-based business.
But I think like hybrid practice model will apply to 80% of the business owner for outpatient clinic. Because if I talk about my personal experience, we bought this outpatient clinic 6 months ago. Before that, I'm a home health guy. I've done home health for last 10 years, and I would, I think, continue doing it the rest of my life. But one of my friend, he was buying this business, and I just jumped in as a partner. So now I dive into the territory of outpatient. And last 6 months, we worked our butt off just to flip that place, bringing upside down. And the basic thing again was like this lady is 72-year-old, hands down manual therapist, but when it comes to business, she was not even billing right, she was not checking the eligibility right, sending out letters after 2 years, and not collecting the copays and all kind of stuff. So we had to go in and fix all those things. It took us almost 6 months to start breaking even, because we had to lay off people and change therapists who were not used to doing the right way, kind of thing. And there's a lot of ups and downs. But yeah, regardless of, I would say, geographic, moving forward, since I know more outpatient now, uh, even I feel the same pain what you just said. Like I would just say and better, right? Or some like the lower quality insurances, they hardly even barely minimum, like paying $60 per hour is not even breaking even for a
No.
business owner. So like if you consider if you just leave five major insurances like Aetna, Humana, Cigna, Anthem, or United, anybody else is just trying to lowball in the market. That's what we found out when we are trying to get into network of, like, there are a lot of people we refuse it. Like even Blue Cross Blue Shield Texas,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of plans that we don't even take because they pay $60 an hour. Like it doesn't even make sense.
Oh yeah, that's a similar situation to what we have in Colorado.
Yeah,
So then as a business owner, you have to make the decision. It comes down to quantity over quality.
yeah.
So if you want to hit a certain metric of gross income, you have to get X number of people through the door. If you want to keep your quality high and be known as the clinic in town where, and I'm not disparaging anybody, it is what it is. We don't get not everybody gets everybody better. Not every practitioner gets everybody better, but what affords you to do a good job is time. So if you have
Mm-hmm.
the time to spend with your patient and the time to establish a rapport and the time to educate them as to why to do their exercises, even in this day and age, one of my best referral sources is word of mouth. So I treat the daughter, the son, and then I treat the the husband or the wife or the partner or the grandma or the grandpa or their friend. And I would like to think that's because I have enough time to do a quality job. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're taking the low ball insurances, you're going to get overwhelmed or overrun by the quantity of clients. And you can set that up if there are models to set that up for a success, but the more numbers you're managing, the more you have to manage.
Yeah.
So then, and as a business owner, you're caught of always working in the business, putting out fires. You don't have the time to be afforded to be able to work on the business.
And plus,
You have,
like, eventually you will see employee burnout, because,
oh, for sure.
like, anybody who is preferring quality over quantity is going to face that burnout situation, sooner or later. I've seen it enough where even employees will start quitting out because there's no value they're seeing adding, uh,
Mhm.
patient are just coming and going is not giving any satisfaction to anyone. And that's just not a good business model for any business owner to be in. That's what I personally say, but everybody has that different individual thing. But in general, I would just discuss about a little bit what I see about healthcare system in general. Like, we'll just talk about it for a little bit. It's like there's no incentive for providing a quality care, and that, I see the bigger issue, because people wants to do a good job, but there has to be, somebody doing crappy job and somebody doing, giving them an hour one-on-one treatment, making sure, or utilizing the number of visits. Like, let's say I have a knee replacement patient and I can make him better in 4 weeks, like 4 visits instead of using 8 visits. There's a 4 visit save, but there is no incentive to do it, right? So now,
Absolutely.
now people are being molded kind of a factory model that, okay, this is how you just keep doing it, right? So that thing needs to be improved, down the road, somewhere. I don't know who, but uh, by someone, like someone for sure, because this way healthcare cannot be a sustainable model in terms of provider or in terms of even providee, because there's no satisfaction coming in from both the ways. Like, insurance is feeling they are getting rigged, the guys who are providing the care, they are thinking that they are getting lowball thing. So at the end, nobody's happy, kind of thing.
I think you have to look to what are some of the metrics, and you have to have a short game and a long game.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, the long game, unless things shift, is physical therapy through Medicare is facing an 8% cut.
Yes.
So an 8% cut, um, that's going to be significant because that's going to be your profit margin.
Yeah.
That's going to be your benefit package for your employees. And I did want to touch upon one thing you just talked about with employee burnout, is I worked in a clinic where I had a boss who we would hire new grads, which was
Mm-hmm.
fun because a lot of times the new grads were our students and they were a known person to us. But then after 2 years, they would look at the salary and say, well, I can go to Oregon, I can go to Washington, I can go back east, and I can increase my salary $30,000 by moving.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a lot of turnover, and turnover costs you money. Every time you have to retrain an employee, you're probably, I don't know the exact metrics, but I would guess it's at least 25% of lost revenue per new
Yes.
employee.
Yeah.
BJ, you could probably speak to that better than I can. Um, so I think going back to the long and the short game, if Medicare is truly going to do an 8% cut, and as of today, my understanding is they're still not paying for telehealth, what's the long game in that? So the long game is that sets a precedent for other insurers, because a lot of them rely on the Medicare fee schedule to also further cut reimbursement to physical therapy. So now
Mm-hmm.
the wheel spins again like it did 10 years ago, and we're looking at less revenue. So the long game is to look at, I think, the cash model eventually, because going back to what we talked about a few minutes ago, you are paying cash up to your deductible. And I'm a pretty strong believer in that in terms of the average person who has an employer insure their insurance is based from their employer. They're going to have higher deductibles. So I think it comes down to a matter of education for our clients and explaining the metrics to them as to how the bones of the insurance model works, and deductibles, co-pays, um, percentage paid in network versus percentage paid out of network, and then moving forward from there.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to next topic because this can be an
Sure.
endless topic.
Oh,
I know,
sure. Yeah.
we can just talk like all day and like we can still be the same, but let's talk about like any side hustles if you have, or things that you are working on, maybe, like if you like to share.
Sure. So one of the things is the PT Hybrid group. Right now, I'm in the process of developing that and moving that into a consulting practice. I'm very fortunate in that one of my fly fishing buddies he's a mentor of mine, and he is a six-figure consultant for CEOs. So he's helping me develop that. Um, and then one of the side hustles I have is I'm collaborating with a CBD farmer, and
Mm.
he is starting a seed to product company. He has started a seed to product company. So at first I thought, oh my Lord, everybody and their brother, you can buy in Colorado, you can buy CBD at King Soopers. You can buy it at your big grocery store. Um, you can buy it at any natural grocer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what uh, Tony has is a very high quality product. And so I just threw it out on my Facebook group, who would be interested in carrying a CBD product in their clinic. And it's funny I found that when I have a set of questions, a lot of the physical therapists and occupational therapists also have a similar set of questions. Well, I thought about doing that, but I don't even know where to start. And plus, a lot of what I see are these, you know, um, I have to buy into sort of an Amway type system. And that's not what we're going to do. Clinics are going to directly buy wholesale, and I will be the salesperson or the liaison between the clinic and the farmer. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of my side hustles. Setting up the consulting business is one of the side hustles. And then my wife and I own a yoga studio in Denver. So that's primarily her business. And the running joke in our family was she started that and was self-employed before I was. So the running joke in the family was one self-employed business wasn't enough, so we had to go for two. So um, we're both self-employed. So I help out on the back end of that more with the technology of things, setting up internet, setting up, moving to the online platform. Once in a while, I unretire and teach. That's kind of fun. I do have a certification in yoga, and I have developed a course called a yoga movement guide, yoga movement assessment, that was somewhat best based in selective functional movement assessment. And that's gone fairly well. My final side hustle, I would say, is once in a while I'll sponsor a continuing education course. So I'll be the liaison between, for example, Greg Lehman has come down to Colorado um, 2 times, and I help him set up his course. So I get to go take the course, and I make a little revenue from that, and we sell out the courses. So he does well. I get to take a course. I make a little bit of money for the weekend, and that's gone really well. And I'm looking to expand that model as well,
Sure.
because I
Uh,
found through. Oh, go ahead.
no, that's fine. finish it, and then I'll just
Oh,
wrap it up.
so I find that a lot of times when people have a really good course and they're trying to land in a place to teach their course, they don't ever, if the clinic can't set them up inside the clinic, they have to scramble to find a place to rent. And so that's what I help with. And then I also help them book clients into their course through social media.
Yeah. So I
Oh,
was.
and the final thing, I did remember one more thing. I
Yeah,
just
sure.
signed up for Alex Engar and Will Boyd's digital
Hmm.
marketing course. And the reason I did that, even though I've been in the game for a long time, is that I want to be able to help businesses and speak intelligently about website design, content resource management, how are they running their emails out to their clients. So we literally, those guys launched the course Thursday night. So that's some of my weekend homework. So
Hmm.
I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, right. Right now, technology has been always like my passion. Like when I was choosing my career, I had two options. Either I wanted to be a computer engineer because I love computer. Like when I was 7, I used to fix my own computer, upgrade and all kind of stuff. I still kind of try to do the same on my weekends. I try to open up at least one unit and try to replace something or upgrade it. So but I was recently introduced to the same model that you just discussed about, hosting and making some revenue out of it. So what we did was, it just happened incidentally for us. There was a guy, he was doing a dry needling course, and he was looking for a place. And we just had a common friend, and he was introduced. And then we just had like we were talking. I was like, okay, my clinic is in McKinney, and he happened to take the course in the same geographic location. So I said, like, can you host like 25 people? I said, yeah, I can make sure. So we got 3 people for free certification at the same time. They paid us some rent kind of thing. We just had to manage was a breakfast thing, which was like $100. But that, I think that has a good model if you have like clinic, which is closed on the weekends anyway.
Hmm.
Plus, it gets you an exposure of PTs that maybe can be a potential hire, because then you need to like kind of uh, have a chance of regrouping. And if you are really open, like in the market for hiring somebody, then that this guy has a skill for it. So I think it's a win-win situation as like terms of free networking, and plus
Hmm.
you get the money, you make money on the top of getting a free certification out of it. So I'm trying to pass it out to a lot more people and see if they can apply the same model in their area and make some money off of it. So let's talk about books, like influence of books, like in your life, or what are the books that has made you change your way of thinking or the way you handle the situation, is business wise, financial wise, and in general.
Wow, that's a great question. I would say one of the books that had the most profound influence on me personally, it doesn't have as much to do with business, was I've always been kind of a soul searcher, and I read the autobiography of the Dalai Lama, and
Hmm.
he actually wrote it in English. So it was not translated. He wrote it from his basic knowledge of English, and I just found that to be unbelievably profound. That it was just a very good book for me to read at that time in my life, and it really helped me start to do some true self-reflection. Um, Other influencers, I really like Malcolm Gladwell because I think he captures at times the potential of human beings and also the uncertainty of human beings. Um, so if you look to a book like Blank or What the Dog Saw or David and Goliath, they all have different themes, but within those themes, he often talks about a multitude of things. He touches upon healthcare a lot and the perception of communication and how important communication is with clients or doctor patient relationships, and how even uh, how even the tone of your voice, or whether a doctor sat down and talked to a patient versus standing up, what the client's perception was. So I like to read books like that because I think it touches upon the communication, but he also talks about business. And then I think it was The Tipping Point, but I've read them all, so I could probably mix it up. Um, he interviews the best Nissan car salesman in New Jersey. And I think that was in Blank, actually. And so this gentleman he interviews, he's the most successful car salesman for a Nissan dealership for 25 years. So he asked him, what led to your business success? And he said, well, when I first started out, nobody wanted to take the college kids for a test drive. And he said, I had nothing but time on my hands. So I started taking for a test drive, and I treated them like any other customer. But the perception was they couldn't afford a car. They just wanted to come in and test just go for a fun test drive. And he said, when I treated them with respect, at 5 o'clock, they showed up with their parents. And by 6 o'clock, we had a car sold. Or he talks about, in perception, one of his best customers was New Jersey is the Garden State. So there's some big corporate farms in New Jersey, and a guy walks into his dealership, in his farm gear and says, I want to get this kind of, and nobody will help him out because he looks like he can't afford anything. Well, that guy's gone to buy, multitudes of cars and trucks from him. So it's all about that. Part of that story is don't judge the book, by the cover. And there's more behind a person's story than what comes to what you might be initially, what your initial perception is of them.
Yeah. I would agree with the Dalai Lama books. I have read one of his book early in my life, and like nowadays even like there's a lot of YouTube videos or quotes, or there's a lot of material just for free. But for personal, like just a view in general about life, if you want to know, or if you have question about those things, I think his books will be really good in terms of finding yourself, or if you looking for what is purpose of my life, right? Those kind of questions I think will be best answered by his books. Okay, so now we can talk about okay, let's what is the advice you will give for the new grads and the people who are starting out from your experience?
Well, because of the financial situation of coming out of school, quite often with six-figure debt, I think you have to almost find a side hustle. You have to create a side hustle, and that can sound completely overwhelming in the beginning. I think going to a business conference for physical therapists or occupational therapists, speech therapists, is the way to go, because I was very resistant to that, but it helps you network. It's the same thing. It's on a bigger picture. It's like when you bring a course into your clinic. So developing a skill set that can help you offset your loans, that would be first and foremost. So maybe you do take a digital marketing course where you learn to build websites, or you learn to edit video, or you learn to help somebody with their content resource management. And you start by getting some experience, and then giving away that first level of experience through giving it away, doing it for free or doing it for a very nominal cost. So you get your name out there, and then things organically build from there. The other thing I would say for a new grad is if possible, try to find a clinic or an owner that can be a mentor, that you can look to and say, okay, if I spend 2 to 3 years with this person, where will I be? Where will I be in 3 years from now? If you find yourself into a situation where you're looking at seeing 20 plus 25 patients a day with no help, that's going to lend you to burnout.
Mm-hmm.
So even if even if financially you were taking a little bit less to work at a clinic where you were seeing less volume and the quality of care was higher and the owner was somebody that you admired and was a reputable person in your community, I would go with that. And then on the side, develop a skill set. So it could be something like you were a skateboarder as a kid, and you decide like, I'm going to build websites for a local skateboard shop. I know the lingo. I know, I don't know the lingo personally, but you know the lingo. Or I'm going to help them with their Facebook advertisement or, their Instagram account, whatever it might be. Digital marketing is one thought that comes to mind. But figuring out a way to start knocking down those loans, because if you can get the principal of the loan paid off quicker, you're going to pay far less in interest. So
Mm-hmm.
you're going to end up saving yourself potentially $20,000 to $30,000 if you can knock the payment structure of that loan down faster.
Yeah, and this has been always like struggle. I have find like people been struggling is like they try to think about the most paying job, but especially when somebody's starting out career. Even my first job, I started out very low. Like my goal was to learn to the max in 2 3 years, so that salary will be compensated. This is my personal experience, because it's a matter of, I think, $10,000 to $20,000. Nobody pays like $50,000 difference. Like
Right.
either you get paid 60 or 70, or the max you will get is 80 or 90. So it's a $20,000 difference. But when you are starting out early in your life, the skill set that will decide where are you going. That is more important than that extra 10 or $15,000 that you are going to make. Kind of thing. And plus, just decide what you want to be, and then find a person who is already there. For
Mm-hmm.
me, my vision was clear, because when I evaluated myself, I did not want to see myself between five, like 4x4 office, spending 9 to 5, 10 or 15 years of my life. I would really hate that work, even today. And that is the reason I still like to do home care, because each and every patient, I can get out in my car, I can have some snack, listen to some music, and then see the next patient. So I'm pumped up. I can treat the patient better. They can feel the joy, and not having the monotonous routine of 9 to 5, and then like you get stuck in Lala. I spent 3 years in New York, but I knew each and every corner of New York City than 90% of the people, because I did the home care.
Yeah. And so you meet, and in a place like New York, the neighborhoods have their own demographic.
And
They have their own ethnicity. It's super fun.
New York City is like
Yeah.
really impressive in a way of diversification.
Yeah.
Like just Manhattan alone. If you talk about from First to 30th Street, from 30 to 60th Street, 60 to 140, and after 140, there's a whole different New York that you
Oh,
can even
sure.
ever imagine.
Yeah.
So those things, like people don't even know, because the life is so much busy over
Hmm.
there. And that was kind of my reason to move out of New York City, is because I did not see a stability. People were spending like 1.5 hour, 2 hour just in transit to go
Sure.
back and forth, the public transit and stuff. And the life is in general is just busy. Like it's too much busy for me. So I was like, okay. So even I took a pay cut to move down to Dallas. I was making almost 125 plus,
Hmm.
like out of my first year. And when I moved here, like I started with 80 again. So, but that was a decision because it was my long-term vision, and eventually it supplements. But I think everybody at some point will have to make that decision in order to fulfill the long-term goal.
Yeah. So that comes back to the short game and the long game.
Mm-hmm.
You have to I think it's even good to maybe write it out. You know, where do I want to be in 2 years? Where do I want to be in 3 years? Write down like how much my loan do I want to pay off. Even if you don't get there, at least you're setting a goal in the back of your
Yeah.
mind. And then how are you going to achieve those goals? What are you going to bring into that structure of what you just wrote down to achieve those goals? So it's some kind of side income. Um, it might be driving for Uber once we get back up and running. I don't
Yeah.
know. That the answer is different for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, but the big thing, what VJ and I have talked about is understanding the finances or the economics of it all, and knowing, looking at the metrics of, okay, if I can pay down the principal of this loan, you're literally saving thousands and thousands of dollars in interest. And so you're shortening the life of your loan, but you're not paying as much for the back end of your student loans. So trying to understand the metrics of the economics of it all is really important as well. Um,
Especially
oh,
earlier on in your life, when uh, you are bound to do some stupid decisions and stupid mistakes. We all have done.
oh
but
heck yeah.
but that is the time, sooner you realize will be hell lot better for you, kind of a thing.
Sure.
Because when I passed out from my college, all my buddies like bought Lexus, BMWs, and all had like 100,000 loans. And like, so the first thing you should be thinking is how can I pay off the loans before even you can start out buying houses and cars and all kind of stuff. Houses is still okay. You can still make rental properties or some income out of it. But cars, no. I drove like almost old. My first brand new car was after almost 5 years of
Hmm.
working.
Yeah. So I
So
mean, a student loan can be what a mortgage is these days.
yeah,
So to have to think about paying both of those, that's a setup for failure.
yeah.
So
And plus,
um,
being sensible about getting a degree. There's a lot of people getting first degree, and then they realize at the time of graduating that okay, oh, this degree is not even good enough, or it's not something what I want to do. Then they want to pursue the second one. Then the first degree is total waste, but the money or the student loan they have to got pay it off.
yeah, we all know professionals in all walks of life who are tied to their degree by virtue of finances. Look at how many people become a doctor, and now we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about exponential debt, and they get 10 years into it and they burn out. But they have to continue to be a doctor because where else are they going to make the money to pay off their loans? And unfortunately, physical therapy is starting to get there, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if you can, I mean, there's people in school right now who are doing side hustles while they're in school and paying off their student loans while they're in school. It can be done. You're going to work incredibly hard. Um, that sounds probably to some people out there like that's an impossibility between school and creating a side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have 2 or 3 websites that you're managing and doing a little bit of digital marketing and bringing in, let's say, an extra $500 to $1,000 a month, and you're paying on, maybe you're paying some of your tuition up front.
Yeah.
Well, right there you go. You've started to, you're getting ahead of the curve, so to speak.
So, like, I'll just add one thing about the side income is it doesn't make how much you're making, but the consistency of making is the key to success. When I started out, I was picking up PRN hours every weekend, for 4 or 5 hours, but on a consistent basis. But when I was doing my accounting, I realized that that is adding $1,500 on a consistent basis. So there's two things of doing side hustles. Like first you got to do it, but the second thing is you got to do it on a consistent basis so that it can generate a volume that will help you, to push to the maybe rent, help out with your basic expenses so you don't have to take out from the student loan. So the money saved is money earned kind of a thing, you know, and that has helped me personally a lot. in early of my career, being financially independent and getting paid off all the, credit cards or student loans or whatever I had to take on, in order to get successful and stuff. So I think that comes pretty handy. Like just find something like $100, $500. It doesn't matter, but it has to
Mhm.
be something that makes you consistent money on a monthly basis. Will add up for sure in the long run, right? Okay, I think we can wrap up our interview, Mike. But
Okay.
I know you have enough experience that we can talk all day and maybe more hours for straight. Uh, People will get bored for sure, so we'll just cut it down. But definitely down the road, I've been discussing with everyone that I interview is like what I want to do is like few more Facebook lives or few more interviews, kind of a short interview, depending upon like the topic we choose. Kind of we'll just pick like a student debt or side hustle or the influence of books, because every person that I interview has read some books that has some kind of influence. So that will help eventually, person who wants to make the transition or finding uh, the problems that they are facing, because problem is something that they will not discuss, but at the same time, as we talked earlier, that 50% of the problem that you face or I face is going to be the same. There's only 50% that is individual, but no matter what you do, if you're a physical therapist, you will be facing 50% of the problem, the pretty much the similar manner. Like how do I make a transition out of it, or how do I make a career change, or those kind of things, which some way or the other everybody is going to face in some point of their life, right? So one topic that I forgot to mention, and like maybe just we went off the topic, is uh, there's a value to your degree. Like this is, I think, I see a bigger problem, because if you are going out of physical therapy degree, you have to see how much value that degree is going to bring in. You cannot spend 300,000 going to UCLA getting a physical therapy degree where you can get it from University of Arkansas or University of Dallas from $20,000 or $50,000. So the value of I think the problem we are facing about the student debt is because of that reason alone, that the value of the degree, if it is $20,000 or $40,000 job, then there is no way you are paying $140,000 in tuition to get that degree.
That's an great insight. So when I was the medical director, my boss afforded me to do the first set of interviews. So when we were building a team, he allowed me to interview physical therapists. So I would ask scenario questions like, okay, you have a patient who comes in and they say they have SI pain. So every patient I know goes to Dr. Google and looks up and they come up with sciatica or SI joint pain. But as a practitioner, we know 68 things can cause that SI pain. So I
Mm-hmm.
would ask interview questions like, how are you going to differentially diagnose that? And um, I wanted to see what a person's thought process was, because we all have different learning styles. Some of us are auditory, visual, etc. And I would just have them walk me through a treatment scenario. Okay, from evaluation to discharge, take me through what that looks like for you. That's not relevant to where you went to school. That's relevant to your personal skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a as somebody who was hiring people, I'll just be real honest. If you, I'm not going to hire you because you went to Duke. I went to the University of Montana, and I think that program stands up very well to other programs because they taught people to be critical thinkers. So if you're if you're looking to a physical therapy, occupational therapy, education, speech therapy, try to find that school that is not teaching to the boards. Try to find a school that is going to teach you how to be a critical thinker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if they're teaching to a test, you're just learning rote memorization. You're not learning a skill set.
Yeah. And
So
plus, the patient cares the least about your degree or your tags that you have behind your name, like the MPH, PT, and
Oh yeah.
OCC, and all kind of thing. Patient on cares only thing, can you help me? You can be somebody from the street, okay, but
Sure.
yeah, can
Yeah.
you help me with my pain that I have? I don't care who you are, that kind of a
Yep.
thing.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to, right? Can you provide a solution to my problem? And if you look at a lot of the business leaders right now, that's where they're driving their um, their education to physical and rehab professionals. You have to think in terms of the patient. Where's the patient sitting? Even when they're at their computer, they don't care that you have 14 acronyms after your name, CSCS, whatever it might be. They want to know, can you help me get back to skiing? Can you help me get back to, or gardening? I want to pick up my grandson again. I can't do that right now because my back is a mess. So can you get me back to what my goals are? And I think as we're so biased in our education that we think of it from our perspective. So if you look to a lot of physical therapy websites, they look like business cards.
Mm-hmm.
They're not addressing questions that clients might have, or addressing how do we solve your problem. And any good rehab professional, even straight out of school, can help 90% of the people. Right, just walking right out of the door at school. I firmly believe that. If you know how to listen, you know how to take the subjective, and then looking to how to speak to patients. So maybe looking into a pain science education course, maybe looking into motivational interviewing, um, looking how to draw out the relevant information from your client. And that kind of encompasses what this whole interview was about, was having the time in order to do that effectively. So it,
Yeah.
it comes back to quality.
Yeah. And again, the key takeaway is, like, as long as you are in healthcare field, doesn't matter if you're doctor, nurse, therapist, or
Mm-hmm.
dietitian, the end result comes out is, can you help? It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. Can you help? And as long as the answer is yes, patient will, welcome you. But if the answer is no, it doesn't matter who you are. The answer is no.
Sure.
Thank you, Mike. I think
Thank
I
you.
really enjoyed, personally, and I always try to learn from people who are, having rolled forward from me, and, trying to share their experience, because experience is something nobody's going to find in a book. And by doing these interviews, I really try to, dig down into personal experience and try to find some knowledge out of it that will help me as well as somebody who's watching this video.
Well, thanks
All
so
right.
much for having me on.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.